Prime time local news, serving the Lakeland and Midwest regions.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. The City of Lloydminster recently launched an economic recovery task force in response to the current economic state. The city's incident management team updated the media today.
And we're here for the COVID-19 update for the City of Lloydminster. Today is Thursday, May 21, 2020. We have two questions from Primetime Local News. Question 1, with some services reopening and the City of Lloydminster is still under a state of local emergency, what should residents keep in mind while out in the community?
The City of Lloydminster began Phase 2 of the Reopen Saskatchewan plan on Tuesday, May 19th. This allowed retail business, some personal services, and farmers markets to open with added guidelines in place. With allowable businesses opening on their discretion, it's imperative businesses and consumers continue to follow the recommendations of the Saskatchewan Health Authority. Because the city does receive media attention from locations in Alberta, you may be confused about some of the rules surrounding this. It's important that everybody remember that both sides of the city are governed by the Saskatchewan Health Authority and the guidelines in place from them. A few of these recommendations are to physically distance. This means staying 2 meters away from each other where possible, staying at home if you feel sick or exhibiting any symptoms of COVID-19, and to enhance cleaning and disinfection in workplaces and public spaces. Additional information is available and can be found on the city's website at lloydminster.ca/COVID-19.
And question 2, the Economic Recovery Task Force, as part of the IMT, recently launched a business operations survey. Can you talk a little bit about the task force, the survey, and how people can take part in the survey?
Sure. The Economic Recovery Task Force was launched to develop a plan to mitigate the potential economic impact on businesses caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. The task force is a collaborative initiative representing the Lloydminster area consisting of local government, business leaders, and stakeholders. The survey is built to learn how many businesses within our community have remained open and what business services they continue to offer. We'll also gain a more thorough understanding of how many were required to close due to the pandemic. The responses submitted through the survey will allow us to better understand the challenges the business community is facing, enabling us to create strategies and frameworks for economic development initiatives post-pandemic. People can take part. By that I mean business owners and operators who are interested in this survey. They can take part and are encouraged to do so by visiting yourvoicellloyd.ca.
I'm joined here with Lieutenant Colonel Eric Angel with the Canadian Battle Group in Latvia. And I guess first of all, can you give me some background into what you're doing in Latvia?
So the Enhanced Forward Presence is a NATO mission, and it's a deterrence mission. It has an air, maritime, and land component, and there are 4 battle groups in Operation Reassurance. There's one in Estonia under the British. There's one in Lithuania under German command. There's one in Poland under American command. And then there's a battle group here in Latvia under Canadian command.
And can you go into a bit of detail on what the training is that the battle group is doing there?
So the battle group is very diverse. It has a lot of different capability. It's made up of 9 different nations, as I mentioned, Canada being the lead. But we also have Spanish, Italian, Polish, Slovenian, Slovakian, Czech, Albanian, and Montenegrin soldiers, all that bring different combat capability to the battle group. So a lot of the training we do is really rehearsals. This is a deterrence mission. We're here to deter any potential adversary and, if necessary, defend Latvia and its population. But most of the training we do supports that. So it's very defensive in nature. We practice a lot of different defensive scenarios where we are defending, territory and different key infrastructure from an adversary. So that's a lot of training what we do. There's also a lot of specialties. There's engineering, there's explosive ordnance disposal, there's tanks, there's lots of different capabilities. So each one of those, given that they're from different nations as well, we do a lot of work together to work on integration, so we understand each other's capabilities, and we understand how the different nations operate and how we can all work together.
Has the pandemic impacted the way that you guys are able to train?
Yeah, you know what? I left Canada on the 8th of January, and at that point the pandemic had not started across the world. So what we understand about what's going on in Canada is a lot from what we see from the news and hear from our families. We also get a lot of information from, we have access to our military networks here, so we get information from our own Chief of Defense Staff. So for the base here, when we first got here, part of it was allowing soldiers to go out to experience Latvia, to meet with some of the local people, go out into some of the cities, enjoy some of the culture and some of the food. All of that has obviously stopped. So there are restrictions here on the base. We're not allowed off of the base. Here on the base itself, we practice social distancing, just like people are in Canada, whenever we can. So in our dining facilities and when we're walking around, we practice social distancing. We have up to 60 soldiers that are going around the base, roving around, cleaning surfaces with disinfectants. So they clean doorknobs and handles, and they just clean all those common spaces that everyone touches. We work with the Latvians. We use masks when we can't social distance, so we're following a lot of the same rules that you are experiencing back in Canada. From a training perspective, when we originally came here, we planned to train outside of Latvia. There was a series of very large American-led exercises that were supposed to happen, and they did occur. It was called Exercise Defender. It happened, but in a much reduced scale. So originally, we were going to plan to exercise in Lithuania, in Estonia as well, and unfortunately, those never happened just due to some of the restrictions. But the one thing I'll tell you, Ms. King, is that it has not affected our ability to execute our mission here whatsoever. So that's what we're focused on. It's curtailed and restricted some of the training and the training venues that we were going to use. But as far as the ability to accomplish our mission, we're still doing it. We're still doing it every day. We're still training every day. We're still rehearsing every day. So.
And like you mentioned, the battle group there is also taking preventative measures, and it might not be as the same extent that we're seeing in Canada with businesses closing. It's just as one example. So what is your reaction personally to all the measures Canada is taking and more places around the world?
Yeah, for me personally, and I won't speak for everyone, but there was a bit of just like across the entire globe, I think there was a bit of a shock at first. I think people were shocked, and I'd be lying if I didn't say there was some disappointment. Usually, Canadian soldiers get to spend about 2 weeks at home during a 6-month deployment. And unfortunately, due to the pandemic, that was curtailed. So there were a few soldiers that got to early on, but for everyone else, it was canceled. So there was, understandably disappointment about that. But Latvia has excellent infrastructure for communications. So soldiers have the opportunity to speak to their families pretty much every single day. So, they're very well connected with their families here. Myself personally, I have a phone here and I FaceTime with my family on a very regular basis. So I feel very connected to what's going on at home. But, it's a crazy situation, and everyone is dealing with it in their own way, but in a very good way. Morale of the battle group is very high.
And is there anything else that you would really like to add?
I would just like to say hi to my cousin who's the mayor of Lloyd. So I have that connection. And actually, my sister lived there for about 5 years. So Lloydminster has a special place in my heart.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Eric. That was the Lieutenant Colonel Eric Angel with the Canadian Battle Group in Latvia.
All right. Thanks, Jasmine.
I'm joined today by Jeremy Boychin with Alberta Wheat and Barley Commission. Jeremy, thank you for taking the time with me today. And now the Wheat and Barley Commission was forced to cancel its summer field days, but you guys will be moving to a webinar format within the field webinars coming up. Can you just talk about that transition to the online format?
I mean, like you'd mentioned, with COVID coming in, a lot of the field days, or a lot of the planning the field days, became in question. Is this going to happen? Are we going to be able to extend this information to producers in a way that they're going to be able to utilize in the field? And I mean, most offices are heading into webinar formats, and we saw other extension, or I saw other extension programs kind of being pushed out of the US and out of different parts of Canada in this way. And I thought would be a good idea to kind of adopt this and see whether producers in Alberta would find value from it. So we took the information and asked the question, okay, what's relevant right now? How can we make this available for producers? Make it an easy webinar that's kind of fluid, conversational, but still informative, coming from the researchers that essentially these producers are funding to do this research. So it just became a question of, okay, who can we bring on? How can we align that timing with when producers are looking for that information? So recently we had the webinar with Brianne Tideman, and she was talking about early season weed control and what that looks like pre-seeding and post-seeding. So very timely information. And in a few weeks, we'll have some other webinars that kind of align with what producers are doing in the field at the same time. So it was kind of easier than expected to transition to that method, but obviously I think we all still prefer meeting in the field and having these conversations that way as well.
And now obviously you mentioned it's about having conversations, spreading that information. So what's the importance of continuing to share all this information here, especially in the summer?
Yeah, I think it's important to keep that communication between extension, farmers, and researchers. Every year, new research is funded. Every year, new information comes out, and every year, new challenges arise with producers. So to have a year where we lose that connectivity and that conversation can set us back. So really, we want to keep that conversation, and that was part of the goal of this. Is even if we're not using a webinar to make up for a specific field day, we're continuing the conversation that may be finding gaps in this year's season because of COVID, maybe because not as many agronomists are able to have those in-field conversation with producers. And I think it's important for that conversation to continue, so the research can continue, so the solutions for producers moving forward can continue.
And now you mentioned you guys have already started holding these webinars, but you have tons of different topics coming up and some different guests as well. So can you touch on maybe a few people or topics you have coming up here?
Yeah, so actually this week, tomorrow, we have a webinar with Dr. Boyd Morey out of U of A, and he will be talking about some of the upcoming insect concerns for Alberta this year. We will also be talking with Dr. Sherry Stridehorse in the near future, and she'll be talking about her research on PGRs for both wheat and barley. And then we have Ross McKenzie coming up soon. He will be talking about in-crop nitrogen applications, what past research has shown with those type of applications. We'll also have Dr. Kelly Turkington. He's going to be talking about fusarium head blight and disease control. So we're really trying to hit on some of those major topics that, you know, we're continuing to push research on, and the challenges continue to kind of find nuances each year. So kind of filling those gaps and reaching out to producers through these webinars. Yeah.
And now if people want some more information on the webinars or to actually join in, how can they do that?
Yeah, so if you're on Twitter, follow either Alberta Wheat or Alberta Barley. If you're not following them, you can follow me, Boychin Jeremy. Or you can head to the websites, Alberta Wheat or albertabarley.com, and go to the events page, and you'll find the events page there, which is in the field webinars. And you have to register for each of those webinars individually, so you can decide which ones you would want to listen to, or which ones maybe aren't as valuable to you, or sign up to all of them and make the decision as you go. And we've really designed these to kind of cater to being able to listen to them in the sprayer or in the seeder, and kind of put them on that way. And if you aren't able to make them, we will be making them available online after. So if you sign up for our newsletter, you'll get information on where to access those if you did miss the actual live webinar.
All right, really appreciate you taking the time with me today, Jeremy. Thanks.
This Ag Report is brought to you by the Lloydminster Co-op Agro Center. Depend on them for product, tools, and expert advice. Shop at your local Lloyd Co-op Agro Center with branch locations in Lashburn and Neilburg.
Well, I'm very pleased to be joined with Lloydminster's own Jordan Pollard, who recently just won the 2020 SCMA's Emerging Artist of the Year. So, Jordan, first off, congratulations and thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
Let's talk about the awards itself. Of course, it was a fairly different way that they did it now because of COVID-19, doing it virtually. So take us through that process of, how you found out you were not only nominated, but how you found out that you won.
Yeah, so for nominations, everyone gets an email and you'll just see that you're nominated and you can go through and vote if you're a member. As far as the win, I got an email for that. So it was pretty cool. It was different than I thought I would be finding out. So it was kind of a cool experience to kind of go through, and had a lot of obstacles with bad Wi-Fi and not being able to send the video through. So I had to pre-record my acceptance speech as well as my performance. So that was a bit different, but it was still lots of fun.
What's been the outreach from the community? I know we're here in Lloyd, we're all pretty proud of, what you were able to accomplish. Have you heard about anything from the community here about the award?
I've heard lots of friends and family and people from the community have been messaging me. So thank you so much for all of the support. I love where I come from and I love all of the support that's here.
How exciting was it for you? Just, because obviously we kind of know you. We knew you went to the Lloyd Comp. You did, musicals, and you were kind of starting out. Now you're starting to build your platform a bit. For you to be nominated on a scale like this, what does it mean for you going forward now?
It means so much to me. I have worked really hard at this, but it isn't just me doing this work. It's my teachers, it's my family, it's my friends, it's music teachers, it's mentors, it's all of these different people that have all helped inspire me and have taught me different things that have all, this is all accumulated too. So it's not just me that's doing it. It's pretty cool.
Now, of course, now let's talk about your actual music. Of course, you have your EP out that was been out for a while, including some songs that I've been having on repeat myself for the last couple of days here. So, Boomerang is the newest single for yourself. Just talk about the meaning behind it and how you kind of wrote it and how you kind of got that idea for that.
Yeah, for sure. This song was actually pitched to me and my producer, Bart McKay. He's from Saskatoon, great guy. We listened to this song and immediately we knew that we were going to cut it, we were going to record it. It's written by Ryan Griffin, Jason Massey, and Kelsey Ballerini, who I absolutely adore. I think she's awesome, and her whole style is something that I really connect with. So it was a song that really resonated with me, and I'm super excited to go up on stage and perform it again once all of this stuff is over.
Now, of course, you mentioned Kelsey Ballerini. I know you were telling me, you didn't get the chance to actually directly talk with her, but just knowing that she kind of had a little bit of an influence, I know you're saying that's kind of the way you had that pop country vibe. Is that kind of what you usually go for when it comes to your music?
Yeah, when it comes to my music, that's what I kind of look for, but I don't think that you should necessarily have a boundary to kind of work within. I think you should take aspects from all different genres and whether you're watching a movie, you get an idea from that movie, or you hear sound from that movie, or you're reading a book and you get an idea, a lyric idea from the book. So inspiration kind of comes from everywhere. So I think that my music can kind of fall wherever. We'll see. Maybe I might do a metal album or something. We'll see.
Now, of course, a lot of artists we've talked to, the COVID-19 pandemic kind of has stopped them from being on tour and performing live. A lot of them we've talked to, like Gord Bamford and Aaron Goodvin, they've been doing social media concerts and stuff like that. Have you been doing anything similar to that?
Yeah, I've been trying to do a live on Facebook every single Tuesday. We're trying to come up with a really catchy name for that. So if you have any ideas, just send them my way. I like puns. but we have that, and I've been posting quite a bit, doing lots of interviews, and I'm still keeping busy, so it's good.
Has all that attention been very overwhelming for you since you won the award, as we kind of just shift back to that a little bit?
Not really super overwhelming. I think that as long as you just kind of take it slowly and just take a deep breath, and it's a lot of people that are messaging me are friends and fellow winners, so it's really awesome that they're messaging me. We get to catch up, so it's awesome. It's really cool.
I guess lastly here, just before we wrap things up, I know it is COVID-19, but what do you think will be next for you down the road here?
Yeah, for me, definitely new music. I was supposed to go on a tour with Women Empowering Women. It's actually based out of Lloydminster. I don't know, I'm sure you've heard of 100 Plus Women Who Care. It's in relation to that. A lot of the women that are doing that are part of Women Empowering Women, and we were supposed to be going across Canada starting this spring, going to Kelowna and Ontario and just a whole bunch of different places. And I was supposed to be speaking as well as performing, so hopefully that can resume after all of this is done.
Well, Jordan, I really appreciate your time as always. We're obviously it's great to chat with you, and congratulations just on all your success going forward here.
Joining me today is Amanda Rummery. Amanda is a hopeful future Paralympian. Amanda, thanks for joining me.
Of course, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for asking me.
Now, Amanda, you weren't always a track athlete. Why don't you just take us from the very start to when you had your accident? You were in an ATV accident where you lost your arm. Just take us through that story.
Yeah, of course. So, I was able-bodied for the first 17 years of my life. And then on July 25th, 2015, a couple of friends and I got in an ATV accident where I collided with a tree. And it was the way that my neck struck the tree that I severed 5 nerves that are responsible for all shoulder down mobility. So elbow, shoulder, hands, fingers. And I had no movement, no sensation after the accident. So that was in July, and it happened out in Kenora, Ontario. So I spent some time at the hospital there, and then I got airlifted to Winnipeg, where I spent some time. And then I came back home to Edmonton, and I started doing rehab at the Glenrose Hospital. And it was determined that it was a permanent injury, so that I had complete root avulsion of my nerves. So it would never get better on its own, and that I would need surgery to fix it. So then beginning of October, I had my first nerve transfer. So they took a nerve from my calf and inserted it into my arm and attached it to the intercostal nerves from my rib cage. And then I went through a bunch of therapy, a lot of OT, physio. And then after about a year, it was determined that that surgery was unsuccessful. It was supposed to bring me back bicep so that I could move my elbow. And then in end of May of 2017, I had another surgery, and that one they took nerve and muscle from my thigh. They took the gracilis muscle from my thigh and inserted that. And that was supposed to bring me back like a claw-like movement. And then after another year of therapy, it was determined that that surgery was also unsuccessful. And when I went and met with my surgeons, they had like at least 5 more surgeries lined up that they wanted to do on me. And I was totally gung-ho on amputating. And I had felt that way for well over a year. Like before even my second surgery, I'd wanted to amputate. So then it being unsuccessful, it just solidified my decision. So then it was really just up to me, like convincing my friends and family and my medical team that I was prepared for the decision. And then when I got the go ahead for that, I amputated in August of 2018, and I amputated at the elbow. So my surgeon, I wanted it right at the shoulder, but he felt that I would want to wear a prosthetic, and attaching a prosthetic at the elbow joint is easiest and most functional. So yeah, and also amputating at the elbow has a lower chance of giving phantom limb pain. So then we amputated the elbow, and it's been almost 2 years now, and it's been great. Like, it's way better than having the paralyzed like flail arm that I had for 3 years. But I've now decided to amputate again. So I'm amputating at the shoulder this time. So I'll just be left with the top of the shoulder. And that is hopefully happening this summer sometime. So I'm just waiting for some of this COVID crisis to calm down a bit, and then I'll get in for a consult with all the different surgeons, and yeah, get that done hopefully August, September time.
Now, Amanda, over that couple year span, you were also in school. What was going through your mind during all of this?
So I lost my arm July of 2015, and then I started university in the fall, and it was definitely tough because it was my dominant arm. So I had to take online classes because my writing was just not where it needed to be. Like, it was barely legible. And then also I was constantly at the hospital for rehab, so many doctor's appointments. I had a really bad concussion in the accident, so that took a long time to heal. So yeah, the first couple of years were tough, getting used to the sling. I mean, having people constantly ask about my arm, like I'd fill up my gas tank and somebody would come up to me, or I'd pay for my groceries. Like, it was just a constant reminder. But definitely I'd say after 2 years, I was totally in the groove of things. My writing is just as good as it was before. Dressing, cooking, everything. I got my license back. So I have a spinner knob and a turning signal extender. So that allows me to drive. And then also I found track after a couple of years. So that also helped. Just being able to be physically active again, I think is really good for like my mental well-being.
Well, Amanda, thank you for sharing some of your backstory. We'll have more with Amanda on more of her track career coming up tomorrow.